when life shatters in a single second. Ethan was certain he had found his perfect woman. Just a few months stood between him and the wedding. Rings were bought, plans were set, and ahead of him lay the promise of a happy life. But there was one thing he didn't know. This wasn't a love story. It was a story of betrayal that cut to the bone. At first, it was the little things, late nights out, vague answers, a faint sense of unease he kept pushing away. But then, in a single moment, the truth crashed down on him, leaving nothing but shattered illusions. She had lied. For a long time. Ruthlessly. Playing a role that was never hers. But if she thought she could walk away without consequences, she was wrong. Ethan didn't just uncover the truth, he turned it into a weapon. And when the time for reckoning came, he pulled the trigger without a trace of regret. Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If it's your first time here, don't forget to subscribe and like this video, as every like truly inspires me. Please tell me which city and country you watch this video from. Now, let's get started. My name is Ethan, and the story I'm about to share changed the course of my life in ways I never could have foreseen. 2 years ago, I was engaged to a woman I believed was my forever, Haley, the person I had convinced myself was meant to be my partner for life. At least, that's what I thought at the time. We had already set a wedding date, and in my mind, our future was neatly laid out. Our home, our family, the life we would build together. But love only flourishes when it's nurtured equally by both people. Haley and I were more different than I had initially realized. She thrived in social settings, basking in attention and drawing energy from the people around her. I, in contrast, preferred solitude, a quieter existence. In the beginning, I believed our differences complemented each other. She was the spark, and I was the steady ground beneath her feet. What I failed to see was that fire doesn't only provide warmth, it can also consume everything in its path. As our wedding day drew near, Haley began to change. Her nights out became more frequent, her presence at home dwindled, and an invisible wall started to form between us. I tried to convince myself that it was just the pressure of wedding preparations, a passing phase. Maybe she simply needed a break. But deep down, something felt off. Then came the night that confirmed what I had feared the most. It was a Friday evening when I arrived home, exhausted from a long day at work, but eager to spend some much-needed time with her. Lately, we had been drifting apart, and I hoped this night would be different. I ordered dinner, picked out a movie, and waited. Then she emerged from our bedroom. Haley was dressed to perfection, her dress hugging her figure, heels accentuating the curve of her legs, her makeup flawless. I recognized that look immediately. "Where are you headed?" I asked, a sinking feeling already settling in my stomach. She smiled while adjusting an earring. "Some friends are throwing a party downtown. It's going to be incredible, Ethan. You should come." I shook my head, my tone firmer than I intended. "No, I'm not in the mood." A flicker of annoyance crossed her face. "Haley, you've gone out 3 times this week. Don't you think we should be spending more time together?" She sighed, rolling her eyes as she carefully applied another layer of lipstick. "Ethan, it's just a party. I want to have fun." I leaned forward, frustration creeping into my voice. "We're about to get married. Shouldn't we be focusing on us?" She let out a dramatic sigh. "You're acting like an old man. It's just a night out with friends. Why do you always make such a big deal out of it?" My jaw tightened. "Because I don't understand why you keep choosing these nights out over being here with me." Her expression hardened. "I'm going, whether you like it or not." And just like that, she grabbed her purse and walked out the door, leaving me alone in the silence of our home. Something about the whole situation felt deeply wrong. That night she came back earlier than usual, but something was different. She barely acknowledged me, her makeup smudged, her hair tousled as though she had run her fingers through it over and over. Unlike her usual confident post-party demeanor, she had thrown on an oversized hoodie, an unusual choice for her. Haley always took pride in her appearance, even after a night out. But tonight, she seemed to be hiding. She kicked off her heels and muttered, "I need a shower." I watched as she disappeared into the bathroom without another word. There was something unsettling about the way she moved, how she avoided looking at me. Her usual energy had vanished, replaced by something distant, something off. My gut told me something wasn't right. When she finally emerged, she slipped into bed without a word, turning away from me without even a good night. The following day, she acted as if nothing had happened. When she walked through the door after work, she greeted me casually. "Hey," she said, tossing her purse onto the counter. I played along, pretending that our argument and her strange behavior the night before weren't still lingering in my mind. During dinner, she stretched her arms and sighed. "I need a long shower," she murmured before heading toward the bathroom. I simply nodded, staying quiet. 30 minutes later, she stepped out, wrapped in a towel, her damp hair cascading over her shoulders. As she crossed the room, reaching into the dresser for one of my t-shirts, I noticed it. A deep bruise covered her hip, dark and undeniable, the kind that doesn't come from accidentally bumping into furniture. My stomach twisted. "Haley," I said, keeping my voice steady. "What happened?" She glanced down, as if seeing it for the first time, then quickly shrugged. "Oh, that? I hit the bar counter last night. Some guy accidentally shoved me." She let out a short, forced laugh, waving it off like it was nothing. But her voice was too light, too casual. She was lying. I studied her face, searching for the truth hidden behind her words. "That bad?" I asked, keeping my tone neutral. She nodded, pulling the t-shirt over her head. "Yeah, I guess I bruise easily." She tried to sound indifferent, but I caught the subtle way her fingers fidgeted. Haley had never been a good liar. I nodded as though I believed her. "Yeah, looks painful." She gave me a small smile, but it never reached her eyes. "It's nothing." The night carried a weighty silence, thick with unsaid words. She slid beneath the blankets quickly, her back turned to me in a deliberate act of avoidance. I hesitated on the edge of the bed, my gaze locked on the floor, an unshakable sense of unease creeping over me. Something was amiss. I couldn't quite define it yet, but one thing was clear. Haley was keeping something from me. For the first time in our relationship, she felt like a stranger lying beside me. In the days that followed, I forced myself to go through the motions, pretending nothing had changed. I convinced myself that ignoring the gnawing suspicion was the best course of action. Haley continued to leave the house frequently, always claiming she was meeting Patricia, her closest friend. I stopped questioning her, stopped pressing for details. If she was pulling away, I let her. But I remained vigilant beneath my facade of indifference. I observed. I waited. And then, one night, everything shifted. Haley was in the shower, her phone abandoned on the couch with the screen facing up. I had no intention of snooping until a message illuminated the screen. It was from Patricia. "I still can't believe you did that." A chill coiled through my spine. Did what? My heartbeat pounded in my ears as I stared at those words, a storm of curiosity raging inside me. My palms felt clammy. I had to know. I reached for the phone, my thumb hovering hesitantly over the screen. Only that single message was visible on the lock screen. If I wanted more, I would have to unlock it. I nearly did. But then the bathroom door creaked open. Steam billowed into the room as Haley stepped out, wrapped in a towel. I withdrew my hand instantly, grabbing the remote instead, feigning distraction by flipping through channels. She didn't notice. Humming softly, she moved past me, completely unaware of what I had just seen. My hands trembled. That night, as she slept beside me, breathing steadily, as if she had nothing to hide, I lay stiff, staring at the ceiling. But I knew better, and for the first time, I didn't feel guilty about what I was about to do. Slowly, carefully, I reached across the bed, making sure not to disturb the mattress. Her phone rested on the nightstand. I took it and slipped out of the room, my movements silent. In the dim glow of the living room, my breath came in shallow, uneven gasps as I entered the passcode I had memorized long ago. The screen unlocked. Messages filled the screen. I opened her chat with Patricia, and the blood drained from my face. The night she stormed out after our argument, swearing she was heading to a party. It hadn't been just any party. It had been a swingers event. That night, Haley had been with 3 men. My hands tightened around the phone, my vision wavering as nausea coiled in my stomach. My fingers trembled as I scrolled further. This wasn't a one-time mistake. It was a pattern. They weren't just meeting up for drinks. They were dating, sleeping with other men. This had been happening for half a year. I struggled to breathe. Every "I love you" she had whispered, every kiss before she left for her so-called girls' nights. They had all been lies. My jaw clenched so tightly it ached. The urge to shake her awake, to demand an explanation, to confront her with the truth burned inside me. But I resisted. Instead, I placed the phone back where I had found it, crawled under the blankets, and stared at the ceiling. I needed a plan. If she had been deceiving me for months, I could feign ignorance for a little longer. I had to be sure. I needed undeniable proof, and when I had it, there would be no escape for her. 2 days later, she announced another girls' night. I played my role flawlessly, smiling, kissing her goodbye, telling her to have fun. The moment she left, I followed. She drove across town and picked up Patricia before heading to a downtown bar. I parked nearby, watching. Minutes later, 2 men arrived. The way they greeted Haley and Patricia told me everything I needed to know. They embraced easily, their laughter spilling into the night air. Haley placed a hand on one man's arm, leaned in, whispered something to him. The intimacy in the gesture sent a bitter taste to my mouth, but my hands remained steady as I raised my phone, capturing photo after photo. An hour later, they exited the bar. Haley and Patricia got into her car. The 2 men followed in theirs. I trailed them to a hotel. From a distance, I watched Haley step out, smoothing her dress. Then she turned to the man she had been whispering to all evening. He pulled her into his arms. Without hesitation, she tilted her face up to his. They kissed. My stomach twisted, but I kept taking pictures, another and another. She smiled against his lips, took his hand, and together they disappeared into the hotel, like I had never existed. There was nothing left to question. No excuses she could make. No way she could explain this away. Haley had betrayed me, and now I had proof. I didn't hesitate. I drove home, grabbed a suitcase, and began packing. My actions were swift, controlled, no hesitation, no second guessing. When I was finished, I removed my engagement ring and stared at it briefly before setting it down on the kitchen counter. A quiet farewell, a final message. Then, without another glance, I walked out the door. The next morning, I woke up in a hotel room. The ceiling above me was unfamiliar, a stark confirmation that my life had veered off course in a way that could never be undone. My limbs were sluggish, weighed down by exhaustion, but the moment my fingers brushed against my phone, fatigue gave way to clarity. The screen overflowed with notifications, missed calls stacked on top of each other, all from Haley. Her messages were relentless, her voice males frantic. "Where are you? Why won't you answer? Please, just talk to me." My thumb lingered over her name, hesitation flickering for an instant before vanishing completely. I wasn't going to respond. There was nothing left to discuss. Instead, I drew in a steady breath and made a few necessary calls. Within moments, the wedding was officially called off. But stopping the ceremony wasn't enough. Haley had spent months lying, sneaking around, shattering every ounce of trust I had placed in her. Now, I could imagine her scrambling to control the narrative, twisting the truth to cast herself as the victim. I wouldn't give her that chance. Opening my messages, I created a new group chat. I included everyone who needed to know, our families, close friends, every guest who had been invited. With meticulous precision, I attached the evidence. Images of Haley entangled with another man, their lips pressed together, her fingers interlocked with his as they disappeared into a hotel. Undeniable. Inescapable. I paused for only a moment before typing, "The wedding is off. This is why." And with that, I hit send. For a long moment, I simply stared at my screen. I didn't need to watch as the responses came pouring in. The truth was out. Irrevocable. Exhaling, I powered down my phone and tossed it onto the bed. As I leaned against the headboard, an unfamiliar sensation settled over me. It was over. And for the first time in ages, I felt something I hadn't realized was missing. Relief. Freedom. Haley unraveled. The second I turned my phone back on, it vibrated violently, an avalanche of missed calls and unread messages. She was spiraling, clawing for control. "What have you done? Please, we need to talk. You don't understand." I didn't bother with the voicemails. I didn't open the texts. What could she possibly say? That I had misunderstood? That it was meaningless? That I had imagined what was right in front of me? It didn't matter. I let the phone ring unanswered, listening as each call grew more desperate until finally they stopped altogether. She understood now. I wasn't coming back. I had already left. Without a second glance, I packed up my life and moved to a city where no one knew me as Haley's former fiancé. A clean slate, a new job, a new apartment, a version of myself unburdened by the weight of her betrayal. At first, the quiet was jarring. After years of waiting for her to return, wondering where she was, justifying her absences. Now, I owed no one an explanation. I threw myself into work, into the gym, into rebuilding myself from the ground up. I never looked back. The months blurred together, then an entire year slipped by. I never sought out news of her, but whispers have a way of traveling to the right ears. Haley's world had collapsed. Her parents, furious. Blindsided and humiliated by the scandal, they had cut her off for a time, unable to stomach the disgrace. Her new relationships? Fleeting. The men she had chased after were never interested in anything lasting. And the people she once called friends? They had abandoned her just as swiftly as she had betrayed me. The moment they realized she valued loyalty as little as she had valued mine, they disappeared. But none of that concerned me. Not once did I feel a pang of sympathy. Not once did I wonder if she was all right. She had made her decisions, and I had made mine. This story has come to an end. Sometimes we turn a blind eye to warning signs, hoping that everything will work itself out, but the truth inevitably catches up with us. The pain of loss can be devastating, but in the end, it brings freedom, the chance to leave the past behind and start a new chapter. Ethan did not become a victim. He took control of the situation and chose himself. And that is the main lesson. Respect yourself enough not to let anyone betray your faith in love. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you like this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you.